Today, we're going way back, about 1,200 years, to ancient Japan. And we're going to uncover a book that's not about elegant aristocrats writing poetry. Nope, this is something much, much stranger, a little darker, and honestly, far more miraculous.
So, what is this book? It's called the Nihon Ryoiki, which basically means the record of miraculous events in Japan. And let me tell you, it lives up to the name. Think of the original Grimm's fairy tales, before they were cleaned up for kids, but set in ancient Japan. It's just packed with these bizarre, sometimes terrifying stories about completely ordinary people. So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll explore the totally chaotic world that this book came from. Then, we'll meet the monk who wrote it all down. After that, we'll uncover the one single unbreakable law that runs through every single tale. And finally, we'll see why its message might just be a powerful alarm for our own world today.
All right, so let's set the scene. We need to get our heads around where and when this is all happening. We're talking about the late 8th to early 9th century, and this was a time of just incredible, explosive energy and conflict in Japan.
Just to put this on a map for you, while Charlemagne was busy expanding his empire over in Europe and the Islamic world was in its golden age, Japan was in the middle of this massive project of building a state. It was importing all this cutting-edge technology and philosophy from China. But, and this is the key thing you've got to understand, the second you stepped outside the sophisticated capital city, most of the country was still an ancient frontier. It was a land of deep, dark forests and totally untamed nature.
And this is where it gets really interesting. You had this huge cultural collision going on. On one side, you've got a brand new, super sophisticated religion, Buddhism, which the elites in the capital were all about. But for pretty much everyone else, the world was still just alive. It was alive with local spirits, with monsters, and this really deep sense of awe for the power of nature. The Nihon Ryoiki was born right in that chaotic, messy space where these new gods and the old magic were constantly clashing.
So, who's the person who decides to capture all this chaos and write it down in a book? Well, let me introduce you to the author, a totally fascinating guy named Kyokai.
See, Kyokai wasn't your typical high and mighty monk, living in some grand temple. He lived a whole other life before this. He'd been an ordinary guy, had a wife, had kids, so his whole point of view was always with the common people. You can almost think of him as an ancient street journalist. He would literally walk through towns and villages, just collecting these wild, terrifying, and miraculous rumors he'd hear. His goal wasn't to preach some complicated philosophy. He wanted to show the regular, illiterate folks that the teachings of Buddhism were real, because hey, look at all these unbelievable things that were actually happening to people just like them.
And through all 116 of these absolutely bizarre stories, Kyokai was hammering home one single, powerful, and totally unbreakable law of the universe.
And that law, of course, is karma. It's this simple but honestly profound idea that your actions have consequences. Now, you have to remember, this was a time of deep social injustice. People were constantly asking, why am I so poor? Or why is that horrible man so rich and powerful? Karma was the ultimate message of both hope and warning. It told the weak, hey, don't despair, the universe is watching. And it warned the powerful, you better believe your actions will be judged.
I mean, listen to how the book itself puts it in the prologue. It's just brilliant. It uses these natural things that everyone could understand, right? An echo can't exist without a voice. A shadow can't exist without a body. It's this incredibly powerful way of saying that your actions are just stuck to you. Justice might not come today, it might not come tomorrow, but it is absolutely inevitable.
Okay, so you want to see how this actually works in the stories, right? Let's dive into 3 of the most memorable and, frankly, wild tales from the book. First up, we've got this really tragic but also beautiful story about love between a human and a non-human. A man marries this mysterious woman he meets, but their dog just knows something is off. Finally, the dog attacks, and in the chaos, the woman's true form is revealed. She's a fox. She runs away in shame, but her husband, in this incredible act of kindness and love, yells after her that he doesn't care and that she should come back and be with him, and she does, every single night. It's a powerful story showing how a truly good heart receives a good reward, transcending even the boundary between species.
Okay, now let's flip the coin for a much, much darker story. There's this cruel moneylender who dies. Later, his son buys a really powerful ox and just works it to the bone. No mercy at all. And as the son is whipping this exhausted animal, the ox speaks. It says, "I am your father." He explains that because of all his greed in his past life, he was reborn as a beast of burden to suffer and repay his karmic debt. It's like something out of a horror movie. It's terrifying, and it shows that karma is absolutely inescapable. The exploiter literally becomes the exploited.
And for our last one, here's a story about salvation. There's a kind, poor girl who sees some kids about to kill some crabs for fun, and she trades her own clothes just to save them. Later on, her family is threatened by this giant, monstrous snake. But on the very night the snake comes to claim her, a miracle happens. A massive army of tens of thousands of crabs suddenly appears, attacks the giant snake, and tears it to pieces, repaying her simple act of kindness from long ago. It's this beautiful illustration of how unconditional love, even for the smallest of creatures, can come back as this enormous, world-changing miracle.
So yeah, these are powerful, pretty bizarre stories. But what can they really tell us 1,200 years later? I mean, so what? Well, let's try to connect this ancient book directly to our world today.
This is where I think the book really becomes this kind of alarm bell for our own time. The world of the Nihon Ryoiki, for all its chaos, was governed by a belief that everything was connected. Animals had spirits, nature held immense power, and this unseen force, karma, was always watching. Now contrast that with a modern mindset that so often disconnects our actions from their consequences, whether that's damaging whole ecosystems for short-term profit or leaving nasty, anonymous comments online thinking no one will know it was you. This book is a reminder that in the grand scheme of things, there's no such thing as true anonymity.
Ultimately, the most powerful message of the Nihon Ryoiki is that we live in a world of echoes and shadows. What we put out there will come back to us. In an age where it's so easy to feel like our individual choices don't matter, or that we can just hide behind a screen, this ancient collection of ghost stories and miracles is challenging us to turn our imagination back on. It asks us to just consider the possibility that the universe might have a very, very long memory. So I'll leave you with the same question, one that has traveled across 12 centuries to find us right here, right now. If every single action casts a shadow, what shadow are you casting?